We don't have to understand or know what it is that's going on from that astrological, but it's that time for reflection of noticing and paying attention and being able to create that awareness that is really, really important.
Sometimes people come into your life as the mirror, as the shadow, but sometimes people come into your life to show you where you're no longer in alignment. And I was like, oh, I get it.
All of that starts with awareness. At the heart of it, you have to start with knowing who you are, watching your patterns, and making honest observations of yourself.
I feel like when the anxiety comes up or that, all the emotions start to bubble over, it's like almost an invitation to go deeper within yourself, right? Like, why is this so triggering?
Hey everyone, it's Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. A quick message before we dive into today's discussion. You may have been watching our videos, but have not had a chance to hit that subscribe button. So if you have gained value from our conversations, from our channel, it would be so appreciated for us if you would hit that subscribe button below right now and even give us a like. What that means is not only does it allow us to grow our subscriber base, but it also allows us to bring in even more guests for you to listen to. And you will be one of the first ones to be notified. So please hit that subscribe button and let's get started on today's wonderful panel discussion.
Welcome everyone to a beautiful evening or early morning, depending on where we are in the world. And so some of us are tuning in from Australia, where others of us are tuning in from this side of the world. And it's 2 a.m. where we are, and where I think you guys are 4 p.m. where you guys are tomorrow.
I'm 2 p.m.
Yeah. You're 2 p.m. Okay. So we've got, so this is amazing. I love, love, love that we actually get to come together on these panel discussions through Sacred You with women from around the world. So this is amazing. And so we're going to be talking about September sacred balance. So we're talking about in preparation for the equinox that's coming up. So for some of you, it will be the spring equinox, while some of us are going to be the fall equinox. And either way, it's still that transition of bringing in that balance during this month of September. And so I'm really excited to have everyone here. So my name is Rollie Allaire. Gikidomi Gunkwe is my spirit name. And I am the host of today's panel. And so I'm going to go around and have everyone introduce themselves. So we'll start with SKYE. So if you want to go ahead, SKYE.
Hi, everyone. As the name says, my name is SKYE, and I am a shadow work specialist as well as a generational trauma healer, as well as a past life healer. So I'm here to pretty much completely unfuck yourself by integrating your shadows and totally love yourself through all phases of your life, whether you are coming into your mother or if you're anything like me at the moment who is menopausal, and I'm taking that transition into the crone now. Rather early, but that's okay. But yeah, so that's me.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, SKYE. And Paula, what about you?
Hello, my name is Paula HOLLIS, affectionately known as Coach Paula to my clients. I am a life transitions coach, I'm an author, and I'm a speaker, and I run an online personal development academy. I assist people with navigating life transitions, grief, loss, whatever that might be. I do some work in the trauma healing space, and I'm just here to share and enjoy the whole environment. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Paula. And Catherine?
Hey, Rollie. So I'm Catherine. I am a leadership coach, intuitive healer, podcaster, author, and speaker. And at the moment, my focus is in empowering mothers to reclaim their powerful no and their voice in life through self-leadership. So coming back to themselves and aligning so that they can have it all, because why not?
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Catherine. And how we end up on these conversations is that I practice moon medicine. And so moon medicine for me is being able to bring in the holistic practices, which includes the cycles of the moon, but also includes energy healing and essential oils and crystals and all things woo that actually help us bring some balance into our lives. And so I'm really looking forward to being able to have these conversations. And I do want to acknowledge that Olivia is here and watching. And at the end, Olivia, if you have any questions, feel free to, and I'll let you know when it's time to do that. So we're going to try and be mindful to the top of the hour. And yeah, so we'll get started. So the first question that I have is we're gathering in preparation for the equinox as the sun enters Libra. So how have you observed the celestial event affecting emotional patterns in your work? And how might we harness the specific energy for anxiety healing? So what about you, Skye? Let's start with you.
No worries. I'm not gonna lie, when I first read these questions, I was like, oh my gosh, no, because I'm not the most in depth with astrology and all that sort of stuff. But as I've come through the many weeks leading up to today, I've reread these questions and it's just absolutely and utterly perfect. I feel like when we look into Libra, it's a lot of balance. People look at Libras and they're like, oh, they're indecisive or anything like that. And that's not also necessarily the case. They're here to bring like balance of both light and dark. And for myself, as pretty much witnessing the event of the equinox, the supermoon, the full moons that are coming through in September through my work. And this is more in my I call it my muggle job. So I work part-time as well as doing all this other stuff here. And I found it very interesting because I had a new stylist coming into the salon and this person triggered me and I was like, whoa, what's going on? And because I'm super curious, I'm like, okay, what's coming up for me? What's my shadow? And it wasn't until I actually had a friend, because I just could not figure it out. I'm like, I don't get it. What's going on? And I was asking all these people, and it's like what this friend had actually turned around and said to me. Sometimes people come into your life as the mirror, as the shadow, but sometimes people come into your life to show you where you're no longer in alignment. And I was like, oh, I get it. So this was bringing up a lot of anxiety and all that sort of stuff, but it was literally like, oh, maybe this is now the time that I'm not supposed to be here anymore because it's no longer in alignment for me. And that's where I feel this energy is really coming up. And if we can actually really tune into it and listen, then there's going to be some really cool shifts happening.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Skye. I love that. And Paula, what about you?
Yeah, I guess like Sky, I'm not really into the whole celestial aspect per se, but I do in my practice notice that as the seasons change, behaviors and emotions change amongst my clients. And so it's like when we have these shorter days or like longer days, it's like the emotions begin to rise as people's routines are shifting. So for me, what I do is I really at a personal level and also for my clients, I really introduce grounding techniques and really ask them to find what is their rightful rhythm, because it can so easily, when Sky said the word balance, I think that's a key word, and alignment, those are key words, but all of that starts with awareness. At the heart of it, you have to start with knowing who you are, watching your patterns and making honest observations of yourself, because so many times we can all often trick ourselves to think, oh, I'm good, or this is whatever. But no, we have to honestly track ourselves and monitor those emotions so that we can navigate flux, navigate anxiety, navigate seasonal changes. And so things like prayer, journaling, breath work, just monitoring and controlling those emotions are things that are necessary as these seasons change.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Paula. I love that. Catherine?
Yeah, it's been interesting working with my clients through this period as we come out to it, up to the equinox, through the eclipses, through the big full moons, through the apparently meteor shower, all these things. And I feel like when the anxiety comes up or that all the emotions start to bubble over, it's like almost an invitation to go deeper within yourself, right? Like, why is this so triggering? And it was funny because on Saturday, I had this incredibly emotional day where everything triggered me. Like, I was just a mess, emotional mess. And I messaged my coach because he does astrology. And I'm like, is there some weird astrological crap going on at the moment? Because I am not okay. And there's always weird astrological crap going on at the moment. He goes, why is this triggering for you? And often if you have that anxiety coming up, it's an invitation to go deeper, because that is why all these celestial bodies, even especially the equinox, sun in Libra, all those sorts of things, it's there to highlight to you what you need to work on and keep evolving. So rather than running away from what's coming up, I tell people to run towards it so that they can actually not have to experience it at that level again. I say at that level because sometimes we have round 1, round 2, round 3, but it gets better each time the more you address it and work through it.
Thanks so much, ladies. And I really love that. And we don't have to understand or know what it is that's going on from that astrological. So I'm not an astrologist. I just work with the energies of the moon and just pay attention. And so sometimes I was like, oh, I don't know what moon it is, or I don't know what sign that we're in right now, but it's, these different things. So like Catherine was saying, what's going on? And so it really is that time. And I think that Skye and Paula both touched on this as well, is that it's that time for reflection, of noticing and paying attention and being able to create that awareness that is really important. And having worked with, and that's who I primarily work with, is women with anxiety. And we just watch those cycles and figure out how those shifts happen. And so for people that are going into that menopausal state and or are already in that menopausal state, we no longer have our own cycles that are going on. And so it allows us to be able to just, when we pay attention to our own cycles, even though we do not have a physical cycle anymore, we still have these energetic bodies and energetic cycles that happen that kind of take us into being able to have things open or close. And like Skye had pointed out, is things that come up that it's like, okay, that's no longer in alignment anymore. And so how do I shift from that? And that is one of the things that's really important for us to be able to do. So I love that. So thank you so much for being able to have those points. So the equinox represents balance between light and dark. So how have you guided clients to find harmony among difficult emotions rather than trying to eliminate them completely? Ooh, really tough one. So what about you, Skye?
Oh, I love this because emotional regulation is my jam. So something that I use a tool for myself, but also for my clients and stuff like that, is that just reminder that what is coming up for you is coming up to be let go of. We live in a society where we call it emotional dysregulation if we're showing emotions. If we're having big, massive crying mess, or we show anger or anything like that, a lot of the times doctors and practitioners, or Western doctors or anything like that, they're like, oh, you're dysregulated, here, take this to suppress everything. But that's not necessarily the case. You having these big emotions, or however they're coming up for you, they're coming up for you to regulate. So instead of going, I don't like that, push it away, it's that invitation of going, this is coming up because it needs to be let go of. And it's, rather than, as you said, trying to eliminate them, let's just sit in them for a second and get really curious about why and what do we need to do to release this? What is coming up? What is that part of you that's ready to be healed or let go of or integrated?
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Skye. What about you, Paula?
I think for a lot of my work as a grief and loss transition counselor or coach, emotions are important. And I think the balance of light and dark and working through those emotions, it's a both and situation. It's not an either or. And so I have found many times in my practice, and even at a personal level, that I've had to address my emotions. For a personal story, it'll be 4 years in November since my husband of 30 years passed away. And I've always been the type of person that damn the torpedoes and full speed ahead. I don't have time for emotions and I gotta get her done type thing. But when my husband passed away, I had to step back and I had to realize I have 3 sons that I need to care for. I got to care for myself. And I'm in a place and space that I've never been. And I've got to process these emotions. I can't sweep them under the rug anymore. And so my journey over these almost 4 years have been about that balance of light and dark, that balance of joy and sadness, that happy tension that we have to sit in. It must be addressed. We can't escape it or try to minimize it. We have to process through it. And Sky said, yeah, sometimes it's bubbling up because it's showing you things that you need to get rid of, but other times it's showing you things that you need to take in. And so it's important to be bold and to work and process through that so you can determine which one it is and balance the dark with the light.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Paula. Catherine, what about you?
I feel the biggest thing that I teach my clients is that there are no good or bad emotions. Emotions are just there for feedback. They're there to let you know when things are aligned or not aligned. And the quicker you learn to feel them and actually be in them, the quicker you can let them go. Because it's when we suppress them and keep pushing them down in our body that it then turns into problems in our body. Then our body starts shutting down, because when our body gets to that point that we get physical symptoms, we have pushed down those emotions so much that we haven't been listening. And so our body then goes into the physical. And if you still don't listen, then that's when you get to tragedy. And this is what happens when you continually say these emotions are good or bad. Anger isn't a bad thing. Anger is you saying, my liver and I do not agree with this. Let's absolutely let this out. But then we've been so conditioned, like Skye touched on, that emotions are dysregulated if we express them. Whereas when you don't express them, that's when it causes physical harm to yourself. And finding a way to get them out of your body is so important. Be curious, like, why am I so angry? Can be such a different question to, I hate being angry, or like putting shame on that emotion and degrading what it's actually sharing with you. And I know for someone that's had to make friends with my anger, and because I'm usually the nice person, and instead it's, no, I'm actually going to get angry now. And anger isn't one of those things where you can go, oh, I'm angry. Like, you really need to meet it with the same energy that anger comes across. You need to meet it with anger, whether it's punching something, stomping your feet, yelling. The amount of times I've gone out and yelled at it in a space. And even that for some of my clients is really triggering. Actually just going somewhere like an empty field or something like that and screaming, they find so triggering because these emotions have been suppressed for so long. So learning that emotions are almost like a highlight to what you need to start to pay attention to, and letting them come out. If you need to cry, if it's in front of people, so what? You're human. Like, this is the thing. The more you let yourself be human, especially as a mum in front of my son, that's teaching him not to become emotionally dysregulated and stuff it all down. When the more we can show people that it's okay to express your emotions and it's okay, the less that we're going to have these impacts on our body and mental health as well.
Beautiful. Thanks so much. And so having worked in mental health for 25 years, and like I said, I primarily focus on anxiety now, but it doesn't mean the other stuff doesn't come up. But one of the things that I would often hear from clients is, okay, I'm going to be good. I'm okay now because the doctor put me on medication and I'm feeling better. Okay, now that you're feeling better, we still need to address the things that actually triggered you to have to be on medication in the first place. And so it goes hand in hand. So yes, you can be prescribed the medication and use the medication. And over the years, with my own experiences with my own mental health, has been sometimes on medication, sometimes not, depending on what it is that's going on. But when I am on the medication, it's still addressing those underlying issues and having to figure out how to be able to cope through the situations that are actually going on, because it is so important. And so the equinox happens twice a year, no matter where we are in the world, and it allows us to be able to shift and figure out, where are we in terms of balance? Where are we in terms of some of the things that are going on? And Catherine said is that when we don't listen, the universe and or our bodies will actually put things in place that makes us say, not a choice. It's not an option. We need to address it. And we've been giving you signs. We've been telling you some of the things that you need to be focused on. and you're choosing not to. So guess what? Now you're going to be laid up in bed for 2 hours or 3 days, or now you've got a broken leg, whatever it is that's happening, because you need to be listening and paying attention to some of the things that are actually happening in order for you to be able to have that balance. Asking for help for those of us who are independent and always just want to be able to get everything done, as Paula described, as go, I need to get all that shit done. And then the universe said, nope, not anymore. You need to slow down. You need to like take a look at yourself, and you need to figure out where you are with your own emotions. And thanks so much for sharing that, Paula. And so the next question is, how have teachings from the medicine wheel about cycles, directions informed your approach to helping people restore balance when anxiety disrupts their center? And so for anybody who doesn't know, the medicine wheel is something that we use in our culture where you've got like the 4 directions, you've got the 4 seasons, you've got the four many things. And so that's what I mean by the medicine wheel, but it's always about the cycles. So do you want to start, Skye?
Sure, I'd love to start. And this is something that is definitely diving in, as you said, Rollie, about whether you're going through menopause or in menopause. As a 38-year-old woman, that is in full-blown menopause, I no longer have a bleed cycle. And I find it, I've always got to like do all the things before I actually listen and go, oh, I get it now. And it's now that I actually no longer have a physical bleed cycle that I'm like, I really need to fucking listen to my cycles, because I wasn't listening to them for such a long time, and I now do have physical conditions and all that sort of stuff from not listening. So I'm very much, don't do what I do, guys. Like, seriously. As you mentioned, like all the directions, and they represent all the different sort of things that we move through, whether it's rest, whether it's creativity, whether it's productivity, whether it's, and really listening to your body and your own natural rhythm and cycle is really important. I find it's when we don't listen, that's when sort of anxiety hits us. And that is that real light bulb moment, or that universe tapping on the shoulder going, you're stuck in between 2 phases, or you should be resting and you're trying to push yourself to be productive. Whether it's unconsciously or consciously going against your own natural cycle, and that's where that sort of anxiety is coming in, and it's disrupting your own center. So really learning, and it's very much that learning, and I feel very unlearning through generations and generations, especially with women. We're taught to ignore our own intuition. We're taught to put everyone else first at the expense of ourselves. So it's really coming back to unlearning that and diving back and trusting your own intuition of going, what do I need to do right now? Where am I out of alignment, or where am I out of balance? Where am I pushing rather than resting? And really tuning into those sort of feelings is that signpost. Again, when anxiety comes up, a lot of the times we're like, I don't like it, I'm really anxious, let's get rid of it, rather than going, why am I feeling like this? What's going on? Where am I out of flow, or where am I out of balance of using that wheel? And it's definitely been a really cool learning for myself to go, I feel really foggy and I'm wading through mud at the minute. And 2 years ago, Skye would have been just like, just drink more coffee, let's go, let's do this. And now I'm like, oh, I'm feeling really foggy. That's a really cool indicator that I just need to take a step back and rest and spend a day in, like, whether it's meditation or just soft flow rather than the go, which is also really interesting going through this phase with 2 small children. Just want to go all of the time. But yeah, it's really that tuning into yourself and relearning your own cycles and your own rhythms and knowing when you're out of them.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Skye. Paula, what about you?
I mean, Skye is hitting all the points here.
Yeah.
I agree with so much of what she said. I don't necessarily follow the medicine wheel, but I do follow like cycles and rhythms, and within that, people being intentional to try to understand them. And I could not agree more about the concept of rest. One of my mantras around rest is that rest must be a rhythm and not a rescue. And so when we're out of balance, we get to the point where we're just so overwhelmed and we can't do anything, but we have to try to incorporate or be intentional about incorporating rest into our activities, and not, especially as women, not being guilted about that, but realizing that, no, I need this to make myself a better version of you. This is my medicine. This is my healing, to be able to find a rhythm, whether it's 15 minutes to just shut my eyes. And I'm on the older side for the most of you guys. So I love the word, I love to use acronyms. And so I could not understand it in years previously, but I appreciate naps. Naps to me are necessary adult peace sessions. And my children know that mommy is going to need her nap, and I'm a better person, whether it's 15 minutes or if I take an hour, I need that to restore myself, to replenish myself. That's part of my healing. And so getting into that rhythm, 'cause I will honestly admit my sleep patterns are a little odd. It's 2 a.m. in the morning for me over here right now, and I'm on this podcast. So my sleep patterns are a bit irregular, but the naps help. No matter what it looks like, it's just important for us to have awareness and to regulate ourselves, whatever that might look like. And so that consciousness of knowing this is what I need to do for me, regardless of whether or not it works for anyone else, or if anyone else thinks that it's what I should be doing. If it's what I believe that I need, then you got to do it. And that helps to bring the healing, bring the medicine that you need, bring the rhythm, and release that anxiety. Like, peace is a decision, it's a choice. And so it's important to find that and to maintain that at all costs. And so that brings the healing that we need.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Paula. What about you, Catherine?
I feel the biggest thing is letting people see that there are cycles in all parts of their life. So not just what's happening physically, but even what's going on with your business, what's going on with your family, and connecting you with the medicine wheel and the elements. It's such a beautiful practice to be able to do. And you don't actually realize how much the elements will play with you if you allow it. And it's part of that cycle of allowing yourself that play and allowing yourself that space to actually create that cycle. Paula was just touching on the rest. So important, because so often in our hustle culture, we're just like, go. But you actually do need to rest. And like Skye touched upon, when you don't rest, then your body starts to fall apart, and you really need those naps. And if you watch a child, they'll just do it themselves because they haven't been conditioned yet to not follow those cycles. So as we come up to like this balance that we're the equinox and restoring that balance, it's almost that time where you can pause and go, all right, let me look at my life right now and see where my energy is being pulled, where I don't actually want it to, and where I can increase my energy and reharness that so I can keep moving forward. So when I'm working with clients and trying to have them recenter, we do a thing called a commitment audit, where we actually look at our lives, like even the most mundane things as doing the washing and cleaning out the bunny's poo and all that sort of thing. We sit there and we go, okay, how does this align with me so it's not draining my energy, because I still need to do these things? When where can I rebalance and restore and call in that balance back in my life? At this cycle, I might be focusing on my family, but the next cycle I might be focusing on my career, and the next cycle I might be doing that. It's whatever you need to highlight for you in that moment that really is important, because in the end, it's your truth and it's your life and you're the one that's living it. So coming back to what works for you and not everyone else can be a really great way of restoring balance in yourself.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Catherine. And I love that you guys talk about these different things. And so, Skye, I was an early menopausal person as well, so I get it. And Paula, we were probably in the same era as these two young ones, but yeah, so like it's about being able to have those. And so I enjoy having naps with my grandson. And so I have a 2-year-old grandson and lives here on the property. And a lot of times we just go and have a nap, and it's his nap time, but I get to rest and rejuvenate. Or I'm typically a go to bed early kind of person. So I like to, as soon as my sessions are done, I like to be able to go, and because I do a lot of evening work, to be able to help with time. But when I'm done, I'm ready to like rest and go and relax. And earlier today we had a session, and when we were done the session, it was like, okay, I'm going to have a bath. And I was in the tub for 90 minutes And that was part of my recharging. That was part of my rejuvenating and being able to do the things that I need to. I also slept in on intentionally this morning, knowing that I was going to be on at 2 a.m. But it's just that, but again, it's about that balance and figuring out what's going to work, right? So I don't typically come on at 2 a.m. on a regular basis. I like to be sleeping at 2 a.m. However, in different circumstances and different situations, I do whatever it is that I need to be doing based on what I think is important to me. And doing this session at 2 a.m. for me was really important because it's the week before the equinox. And so next weekend or next week around this time is when we are full blown into that balance. And having this conversation and this discussion with all of you is a great way for us to be able to have these insights, to be able to figure out how to be able to do these different things. And so I've been walking this path for a number of years and I wish that I would have known when I was going into perimenopause way back when, what I know now in terms of cycles and how those things and those rhythms happen. And so I get to teach that to the women that I work with, but I also get to teach that to my grandchildren. So my grandson, who will not have the same type of cycles, but will go through cycles. And then my granddaughter, who is 4 months old, I get to help point out some of the things that are going on and that she's going to have that awareness that I didn't have, knowing that these are some of the things that we need to be doing and how to be able to respond differently and addressing our emotions as they're coming up with all of the stages in our lives and all the different things that are happening. So thank you so much for sharing, ladies. So many people experience increased anxiety during seasonal transitions, and we touched on that a little bit. Somebody talked about that a little. What approaches have you found most effective for maintaining emotional steadiness during this particular shift? Skye?
I love this. And I'm reading a book exactly on this at the moment of like seasonal shifts and honoring those sort of times and reducing anxiety and all that sort of stuff around that. And I think a lot of it, again, comes back to awareness. So I know you, Rollie and Paula, are going into your fall equinox, where Catherine and I are heading into our spring one. So we're coming out of winter. So we're coming out of that deep rest state where, you know, it's cold, it's rainy. And rather than, we have a lot of clients like, oh, such a rainy day, I really can't be bothered doing anything right now. Cool, don't. That's the point. We are in the season is calling for rest. It's cold, the nights are longer, and it calls for a lot of, if you want to take it even further, it calls for a lot of things like root vegetables and really hearty soups and the really warming, really substantial kind of complex carbohydrates really support your body through those times. And then coming out of that, Catherine and I are coming into like the spring equinox. We're coming out of that winter and we're coming into, at the moment here, it doesn't know what it wants to do.
It sounds like Canada.
But we're coming into where there's the days are longer, which is really cool when you find yourself waking up early. And I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned from this cycle thing is like if you need to sleep, sleep. And if the night's longer, you need to sleep more, awesome. If the days are longer and you're finding yourself waking up early, that's awesome too. Wake up, move. It's really, it comes back to really honoring that self rather than what you feel like you should be doing. Because we can shoot ourselves to death, or oh, I could be doing this, or I really should be doing this. Yeah, really. People, and I find it's that beautiful blend because we live in a society now where food is just readily available, and we have come away from the seasonal transitions of different diets and lifestyles and lots of stuff. But there's still a really cool learning into that real ancient practices of eating through the different transitions, resting, being productivity. Yeah, I could keep going, but it's definitely coming back to honoring yourself through those transitions and what you need rather than what everyone else thinks you should be doing.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Skye. Paula?
Yeah, I think just to add on to what Skye was saying, I think a lot of the anxiety, I think part of it is rooting out where is the anxiety coming from. because I think sometimes we allow others to put expectations on us. And so I think the key is to find out what grounds us and to use that as an anchor so that we can be steady, so that we can be stable, because transitions and navigating through different seasons of change, it can muster up some anxiety, but I think the key is to acknowledge it, but then also realize, where is it coming from? Because if you don't understand that, then you're really not going to be able to address it. It's just you're going to spin in a cycle. It's going to keep you stuck in a loop. And so it's almost like the practice of the 7 whys, like asking yourself, why is this? And then when you get that answer, and then why is that? Almost cycling through, trying to understand and unpack and uncover, because at that point you ultimately then get to the truth, and you get to your truth, and you get to the root of things. And so you're better able to address it because you know where it's stemming from. Like, I know this month I was just recently like thinking about a friend of mine that literally I just was thinking about him. Like, he always said, I think earlier someone asked me how I was doing, and I said, excellent. And that was always his response. It's a off-putting response in some regard because most people don't say that, but that's the way he always responded. He always had a positive outlook in life, no matter what was going on, even though things weren't always positive in his life, he maintained a positive outlook, and he would always declare, I'm excellent, knowing that at the heart, yes, that's what he is, and he would deal with it. But I found myself over the last few weeks like thinking about him, but I wasn't sure where it was coming from. And then all of a sudden I'm looking in my calendar and I realized next week is the 10-year anniversary of his passing. And so subconsciously, our subconscious is always processing things. But if we don't ever slow down and give ourselves a moment to allow it to process and understand the whys and the reasons behind, we will miss it. So the anxiety is not a bad thing. It's a good thing that you need to sit with and process and understand. But if you don't give it the respect and the honor that it deserves, you can miss what it's trying to teach you. So,
Well, thanks so much, Paula. Catherine?
Yeah, I think Paula touched on some of the things I recommended earlier before with grounding and journaling. But I was interviewing this lovely lady, I think her name's Elizabeth Bruckner, and she shared with me this really amazing tip for anxiety. And she said, a way to step out of anxiety is to put yourself in action, because when you're stuck in that anxious cycle, it can be really hard to see your way out of it. So, for example, when it was during the COVID lockdowns and she felt she couldn't go get her organic food and everything like that because she couldn't go to the shops or go to the normal places she would go, she put herself in action to step her, because she felt herself having an anxiety attack. She could feel it coming on. It was getting bigger and bigger. And she went, you know what? I can make my own sourdough. So she starts making her own sourdough. She starts making her own fermented veggies. So that was her solution, by putting in a plan. So often when I find clients are in chaos or they're spiraling because of the heightened energies or whatever's happening in their life, it's okay, what's one step that we can put in place right now and take action on that? And it doesn't even have to be a big thing. If you feel like your health is declining, it might be as small as, I'm going to go for a walk around the block today, or I'm going to put my shoes on and just jog on the spot for 5 minutes. Whatever it is, it's just something small to get you out of that anxiety loop that you're stuck in. Because when you have those actions, it helps you anchor in the here and the now and step forward to where you need to go. So I found that's really practical, especially for my clients. And I have a few that pop into my head right now, and it's every week it's something new. And I was like, okay, what's going on? Why are you in chaos? And attracting that, because so often we blame external forces to what's happening outside us. But if we're attracting chaos, it's reflecting what's happening inside us. So if you're feeling really anxious and everything around you keeps triggering you, it's just a cue to reflect and go, and okay, what's inside me that's triggering me, and pulling all this into my field and pulling all this into my life as well.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Catherine. And it is so important. And I love what it is that everyone has just said is about being able to identify what is it that's causing us that anxiety. And I am the action taker. So So when my father-in-law passed away several years ago, that was one of the things, like he died at 3 a.m. and by 9 a.m. I had all of his specialist appointments canceled. I had everything, like all the things were done. I was getting ready to go to the bank to get, I didn't even realize that I was supposed to have a death certificate before I could do anything. But I was ready to get all those things done because that is how I cope. I do. And so I've had to learn to find things to do that do not make me just do more things mindlessly, that I allow myself to be able to take the time. And so the conversation that we had today, again, was having that, I guess technically, yes, it was yesterday for me, but having those conversations about being able to be in the garden, being able to, and now as the season is shifting, I need to now figure out how to be able to look at things differently and find something else that allows me to be able to stay grounded and stay connected to energy, because I can't be in the flower beds right now. It's not warm enough to be in the flower beds, and my flowers would not like it very much. And I can't go out and water them. But all these things allow me to be able to shift my patterns and figure out how to be able to do that. And so I am not a winter person. Winter is not my jam, but one of the things that I have learned to do over the last 2 years is I have learned how to snowblow so that I can still be outside. So I don't like it. It's cold, but it's something that needs to be done. And I have learned how to be able to use the snowblower to keep the yard clean and be able to have some of those things done. And so it still allows me to be able to be outside. And so not that I'm looking forward to snowblowing, but it still allows me to be able to have that connection and figure out how to be able to stay in that grounding state. I do meditation, I do journaling, I do all those things, but it doesn't give me the same energetic healing as being able to be outside does for me. We are moving into that season where fall is coming in, and we live in a rural country. So when the weather is actually not bad, we can still go for hikes and check out this different scenery and see the leaves changing colors and all those kinds of things. So that is grounding, but it's also that shift and that connection of where it is that we have, what we have going on. But even, and I've talked about this in another conversation where even though we're two ends of the world and we are moving through these cycles of, like, you guys are coming out of, so those of you who are in Australia are coming out of the winter season and moving into spring, where that's action taking. But for us that are actually in fall, and I'm going to assume that it's the same in the US, is that we're coming out of summer, which was our busy and helping to be able to get into some rest and different things. But getting into fall means that busyness and getting things going, because kids are going back to school and the holidays are coming up and all of those different things. And so we still move into that action, as opposed to like getting in preparation for the winter season, which is what fall is supposed to be. And so one of the things that I remind my clients is to be able to remember to bring in that preparation for winter. What are we doing to be able to get that going? Because we're getting into that busyness of these crazy seasons that we get into Thanksgiving, we get into Christmas, and then we get into the new year, and we've got all these things that are happening that doesn't allow us to be able to slow down. So fall is that reminder of being able to take things slowly and slow things down. So even when we get into the crazy of the season, that we can at least be able to have things that we can anchor onto and bring ourselves back to. So thanks so much for that conversation. And so the last question that we have is, for those blending traditional wisdom with contemporary practices, what surprising contemporary effects have you discovered when supporting clients through anxiety, particularly during balance-focused times like the equinox? Skye?
I love this. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen working with clients like that is permission. Cool. Have your logical or contemplatory practices and have your spiritual practices. You don't have to choose between one or the other. You can, and I think a lot of people feel like they have to go one way or another way. And it's like, no, you can bring them both together. And I remember having a conversation at, like, towards the start of the year, actually, with one of my beautiful clients as she was gearing up to give birth. And as I'm pretty sure, like, a lot of expecting mothers get, all this conflicting advice of don't do this and do that. And this poor woman got bombarded with horrible birth stories and how much they hated the hospitals and the Western medicine practices and all of those sort of things. And we're telling her to have a home birth and do all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, cool, stop. I said, you can do both. I think a lot of people will either be really hard on the spirituality or be really hard on the Western practices. You can still do both and still have that balance. And as I said to her, you've got to think generations and generations ago, childbirth was the highest killer of women. And a lot of Western medicine practices have actually stopped that because things can be picked up in advance and all that sort of stuff. So you can still have the support of your GP, OBGYN, you have your midwives, you have all that, but you can also bring in the ancient practices as well. It doesn't have to be one or the other. You can still have both. And I think that's the biggest thing when I talk to clients, when they're feeling lots of anxiety, and it's like, you can have both. It's fine. You can blend all of these practices to make something that is in alignment and that works for you, most importantly. And I think that's the thing. It's got to work for you, as everyone is completely different and we all run on completely different cycles and energies and all of this sort of stuff. Blend what you need to make it your own and have it align that way.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Sky. What about you, Paula?
Yeah, I like blendations. I think that's important, to blend and to find what works. As I alluded earlier about my husband passing, what my sons and I have done is adapted a mantra that we're giving ourselves grace and space. When I'm doing something and I'm navigating something that I've never done before, sometimes I'm going to nail it out of the park. I'm going to do really well. And other times I'm just going to F it up, as Sky would say. And so at the end of the day, I have to give myself grace and space and not beat myself up about it. And so it is a both and. Like, I am very strong and very rooted in my faith and it grounds me, but I also have to be practical about other things as well. And it's important for me to realize what works for me. And what works for me might not work for you, and that's okay. I've got to be okay with that. And that's a matter of finding confidence in self, which is a whole nother thing. But it's important just to make sure that we realize there is no one size fits all to this process. It is important to realize that just like I am unique, my solution is going to be unique. And so I think that's the key part, to realize that we should use all available resources, blending of different things. Because even for me here, and I can just be brutally honest, like I come from a different perspective, but yet there's such a common thread in each and every one of us and what we do. Even though we practice different things and we use different terminology, the concepts of balance and rhythm and all that is a constant thread that aligns through all of us. So if I were to just exclude myself and go, no, I don't do that, so I'm not going to be part of that, I lose the joy and beauty of blending and getting a different perspective and making myself more whole in what I'm doing. And so this, for me, this has been eye-opening and enlightening, and it's helping me to see that regardless of terminology or regardless of practice or time zone, at the end of the day, we're all human. And it's that human experience that aligns us and puts us together in a common space. And that's what we need to focus on.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Paula. Catherine, what about you?
I really love how Sky and Paula both interwove that together, because it is so true that it's, you combine things and you put things together. But I always tell people, what's your truth? Because in the end, it's how you discern and how you decide what aligns for you and what doesn't align for you. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, because the more, we're constantly bombarded all the time. Sky said that poor lady going into labor and everyone's telling her the horror stories before she gives birth. And it's just, that's not going to help your anxiety going in to have a baby for the first time. And, and I'm sure it was the same for you, Paula, after your husband passed, everyone telling you how you should grieve. But in the end, it's what aligns for you and what's your truth. And I found sometimes when you actually give people permission to just be themselves and just be how they want to be, can be the most powerful practice when you're rebalancing and when you're taking what other people tell you. I've always been the practitioner, even for years as a speech language pathologist, where that wasn't the only thing I did. I went and studied how to work with diet. I went and studied nutrition. I went and studied occupational therapy courses. I went and did all these different things because I wanted to have a better understanding. And I took what resonated and I left what didn't. And that made me a better therapist all around, but it also makes you a better human because you're curious and you become a generalist, and it allows you to experience different things. But in the end, it's what is true for you. And the stronger you get for your truth and allow you to discern from that, it helps you truly move forward. And anxiety doesn't become as big as a thing because you're owning your truth. You're not worrying about what everyone else is going to think. You're not going to worry about what society thinks. You're not worrying about the outcome. You're truly just honoring where your heart's at and the next steps that you need to make for you. So if anything resonates with that, it's just own your truth. And that's your truth, and let everything else go. Don't worry about it. And your truth can change. And you need to be compassionate about yourself because sometimes you learn new information and it throws you offside. I call it the deer in headlights effect. Like when you share something with somebody and it shatters their belief systems in front of you, and they're like, and you're like, okay, let this resonate, let this percolate, take what resonates and what doesn't. But you have to be compassionate with yourself, because when you do those shifts, then you can start to question everything. And that's when you normally get the most growth. But at the same time, now your truth has just shifted because you've evolved. So now you have a new truth as you evolve on your journey as well.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Catherine. And I love these conversations, and I love how you guys have been able to tie things in. And so when Skye and Paula were talking, I just wrote down a couple things because I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget things that just popped into my head around like this whole conversation about how we actually do this. And so again, my background is mental health and working in the mental health field. And so having had that experience was challenging because I have always been, it's what do my clients need? How do we do this differently? Or so like when Paula was saying, like, this is, we're coming from a different perspective, like everybody's coming from different perspectives. And having worked in mental health and having worked with number of different people over the years, that was one of the things, is like, what is it that's going to help Skye in this particular moment? What's going to help Paula in this particular moment? What's going to help Catherine, and what's going to help Olivia? And they're not going to be the same. And so my approach is different. And so even when I had students, when I was working mainstream, that was one of the things that they'd say, like, how do you know? And I'm like, I use my intuition, and I know that this is what, and based on what they've said, based on things that they've shared, based on their responses and their reactions as to what it is that's happening. And so when we're talking about what is it that's happening, is shifting our thoughts and patterns about what should, right? So stop shoulding on ourselves. Like, that is so important, because it doesn't matter what society thinks we should, or that what we've been up, how we've been raised as to how we should do things, is how to be able to look at things differently. And like, even having, so I have my son who was like definitely a teacher for me, and now I have my grandson who, they're the same. And so when my son gets frustrated at my 2-year-old grandson, and I'm like, this is what we dealt with, probably tenfold. But it's that reminder of like, things like those patterns are still there, those cycles are still there. And so it's really interesting that I have a different perspective as a grandmother than I did when I was mom. And because I have a different lifestyle, I think I take things more slowly. I take naps when I need to. I do all the things that I need to do for myself that allow me to be okay. And so whether other people think that it's okay or not, that's not my problem, because I really focus on what it is. And having worked with, so one of the things that in mainstream is that under the social work and social service work practices, or at least they are in Canada, I can't speak to everywhere else, is that we had different regulations. So if I wanted to help somebody go out in nature, now that's a little bit more something that is allowed, but 10 years ago, that wasn't something that is, oh, that's not normal. What are you going to do? That's like, we can't do that. So, but I would actually go and sit at a park with my clients, or I would actually go and meet them and go hiking with them, not hiking, but do a short hiking trail with them and have those conversations with the youth. I would actually take them in the car and we would actually go and grab a coffee or whatever kind of drink that they wanted to have. And we would go for a drive so that I was able to meet them where they were at, because that was so important. And that is still something that's so important. And so being able to incorporate some of the things that are not in the norm allows us to be able to have that aspect. And one of the things that I say all the time that Catherine repeated several times during this conversation was, take what you need and leave the rest. That is so important. And I use that all the time, because I'm going to share something, or someone else in our circle is going to share something. And if it doesn't 100% resonate, then take what you need out of that and then leave the rest and move on to something else. And one of the things that, and I know that it was an oxymoron in terms of conversations, but one of the things that Catherine had said during one of the questions was she meant to say elements, but she said elephants. So it's like, what's that elephant in the room? So she didn't say that intentionally, but it was in that conversation of, she's talking about the elements, but yet it's the elephants. What are the elephants that are in the room that we need to address and that we need to touch on? I love these conversations that we've had today. This has been absolutely amazing. So I want to take a minute to have you share something about, so share a little bit about what it is that you do. There's going to be links in, for anybody who's listening, there are links in the description on how to be able to reach all the women. But Skye, what is it, something that you do that you think would be beneficial for someone to reach out for and connect with you?
So yeah, definitely. So one of the main things that I do obviously is confronting shadows. So I am the guide, I'm the person with the light lamp that will walk along with you as you go through your own darkness and into your light. So I'm the person that is there to help you so that you're not alone through these journeys. So I offer shadow work sessions, clearing and healing, intuitive healing sessions, but also I do a beautiful friend and a client of mine called an excavation, where it's a 4-month mentorship and we like literally upheaval everything and find your patterns, find your cycles that you're continuing to loop that you want to break, and move through the healing process of integrating and aligning all of those sort of things. I work in person and online. So if you are in the south of Western Australia, you can come and see me in person. If not, I am online and I adapt everything to be online so I can work with a multitude of people all over, because like these beautiful panel discussions, it's really cool to be able to connect with different people from different parts of the world. Yeah. And as Rollie said, I'm pretty sure there's links in comments if you want to just either find me on my website, book a consultation, or find me on Facebook and reach out and ask. I'm always here to help. So I love questions. So feel free to reach out and ask me anything that you're unsure of, and we can definitely go from there.
Beautiful. And do you host a tribe, Skye?
I do. My tribe is actually on pause at the minute because, as Catherine lovely said, that my anger and my liver weren't aligned. So I unfortunately went into some liver issues a couple of months ago. Which sort of was a really big shock for me, because I don't drink and I'm very healthy and all that sort of stuff, but it was a massive wake-up call to go, hang on a minute, what am I hanging on to right now? And going through the menopause journey, there was a lot coming up. If you guys can relate, when that sort of starts, everything that we smush down comes back up. So I've paused my tribe for the moment, just while I make sure everything is okay going through with me, and then finding a rhythm and cycle that aligns with me and able to come back to that. But I do offer the shadow work circle, and I'm pretty sure I'll be coming in for wisdom circles as well. All things sort of shadow work and generational trauma healing, anything that's like taboo, the third drawer down, that you stuff all the stuff that you don't want to see. I'm that person, that 2-year-old toddler that opens the drawer that you're not supposed to open to find all the good things.
Beautiful. Okay, thanks so much, Skye. Paula, what about you?
So I offer, like I said at the beginning, I do have an online personal development academy. And so it's there as a vault for people to do private lessons, or we can have interactive community lessons. But I also do group and individual coaching through my methodology of AIM, where we start with awareness and then we set an intention around the awareness. and then we build and maintain momentum around it. I also help people to just navigate the transitions that they're in, especially as it relates to grief, to go from grief to growth, and to actually sit with grief itself and to understand that there is a gift in grief itself. And I help people to reframe their grief and to process through their grief. I have a myriad of grief stories that unfortunately, I guess, make me an expert in this area. And so I do help them with navigating grief, navigating also life transitions in career and their own personal transitions. And then lastly, related to moving from silent to sound, helping people to understand and reclaim and find their voice and to express themselves in circumstances and situations where they have become muted. And so it's important to do that as well. And so I do that with the various programs that I have, both individual and group, and through the academy.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Paula. And Catherine, what about you?
Yeah, so I coach people to go back to their soul path essentially and to access their highest versions of themselves. And how I do that's through intuitive healing in whatever way it comes up. Might be inner child work, it might be generational healing, ancestral healing. Sometimes it's actual energetic healing as well. And it's truly the main theme at the moment is owning your courageous no, because when we learn to own our powerful no, we draw a line in the sand, and it's amazing what happens. Just before this, I had a client who said no and left this position. And as soon as she did that, because that position was draining her, I kid you not, her dream job landed in her lap. And this is the magic of owning your powerful and courageous no, because energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred. And so often when we keep our energy in something that doesn't align, it doesn't let us step into sacred leadership. So I offer one-on-one sessions at the moment. I have a free 30-minute call where you can just come in and see, first of all, if we can work together, because I don't work with everybody. And second of all, make a plan for you. If you want to come for a series, that's great. Let's book that in. If you want to come for a one-off session, great, let's do that. But in the end, I want to see you succeed. And if we're meant to work together, we're meant to work together. And I truly love seeing how powerful the no's resonate in all my clients' lives. New relationships, new places to live, new countries to live, new jobs, new opportunities. So it's amazing what happens when you start to own your power and your worth. And I also host the Empowered Entrepreneurs Tribe, which is Monday, 9 a.m. Sydney time. I'm not sure what time it is Eastern.
It is 7 p.m. our time.
Thank you. On Sunday, on the Sunday.
On Sunday, yes.
And but we are a bunch of lovely women that come together, and from nearly 20 years running businesses, I help people see their gaps intuitively, and also through everything that I've picked up through working with my coach, through developing my business. And I can tell you what not to do from all the things that I have experienced as well. But it's also just a space that you can share your wins and also get inspired into action again, because when we can be inspired and put that into action, that is when the magic truly starts to happen in our lives.
Thank you, Catherine. And so through Sacred You, I host Moon Medicine Circles, which is Friday, my time at 6 p.m. And in Australia, it is 8 a.m. On Saturday morning. And I guess that's going to shift because of the time zone. So I think it's going to be 10 a.m. within the next few weeks. And so we actually talk about the cycles and bring the different energies that are actually happening. And we have those conversations of what's happening. And so that's really important. And for me, that I work with women that have anxiety, and we work through cycles, we work through group work. So for the most part, I do mainly group, but I do have some one-on-ones, but they're very limited space in terms of what it is that I do. So Wisdom Cycles is my main program that I offer. And we do a lot of different things, including coming up for the equinox. We're going to be preparing for the equinox. And so we're going to have a workshop specifically that is connected to that, I think on the 21st, my time, if I'm not mistaken. But it's being able to work through the different things that are happening. And we have a supportive community that has been with me for a number of years. I've been doing this business for 10 years. and bring in the holistic practices that I was not able to always bring into place with my clients on a regular basis and prior to being on my own. And yeah, I love those conversations. And so I also host wisdom circles. I'm going to be having my very first wisdom circle through Sacred You next week, I believe. And so I host these discussion panels and panel discussions, and I love all those parts of things. And so Olivia, do you have any questions before we close off, before we get Sophia back in?
No, I just thank you guys. I've gone through some sort of transition, and so I was just really hoping I would find other people like me. And so I just appreciate all of you and thank you for your time. That's all.
Thank you. So where are you tuning in from, Olivia?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, beautiful. So you're 2 a.m. as well? Phoenix is same time zone? Eastern? This is 3 a.m.
Midnight right now.
Okay, so you're a little further outside of the time for us. So we'll call back Sophia if she's still there. She is.
Absolutely, Rollie. I've been here listening, and I just want to thank you, honor you for a wonderful panel. This has been so very interesting. I'm going to go back and watch the replay. So thank you for doing this at 2 a.m. in the morning. And Paula, thank you ever so much for showing up on your first panel at 2 a.m. in the morning. It takes a special type of woman to do that. So I just want to honor you both. And of course, our beautiful Skye and Catherine, who are also joining us today. And Olivia, welcome. And thank you for joining us at midnight. A wonderful panel. And as you said, Rollie, you are hosting your first Wisdom Circle in just 5 days' time. So for everyone who's watching us live, come back in 5 days' time, because Rollie will be facilitating wisdom, a wonderful conversation on finding balance in life's transitions, adapting to change with grace. I'm looking forward to that one. And if you're on the replay, you will still be able to find the replay of that Wisdom Circle, even though it will be over. So, and for everyone else who's watching us, whether it's live or on replay, do click on the links below, because as Rollie said, all the links for these amazing women are below. Reach out and connect with them, even if it's just for a chat, even if it's just for a conversation. So do that. And if you want to know more about Sacred You, come and visit us. We have panel discussions and wisdom circles and archetype circles and tribes, our amazing tribes, plus so much more. Come and check us out at Sacred You, that's the letter U, .love. And if you put /join free, you can join us for free. Visit our village, hang out in the village, and connect with other like-minded women who are on a spiritual path like you. So thank you again. We will see everyone next time.
Thanks, Sophia.
Thank you.